Welcome to the deep dive. Today let's talk preserved roses. You know those amazing blooms that seem to last forever? They pop up everywhere, from gifts to home decor.
Absolutely. They're really versatile.
But if you've ever tried sourcing them wholesale, you might know it's not always straightforward. It can feel well, like navigating a maze sometimes.
Definitely. You hear about inconsistent quality, prices all over the place.
And suppliers who just ghost you after you've paid.
hmm
It happens. So maybe that sounds familiar if you're in the business, or perhaps you're just curious about how this industry works.
Yeah, it's a common headache, honestly. And that's why we wanted to really dig into this, using some solid firsthand experience.
Exactly. We're drawing heavily on insights from Annie Zhang, who's the CEO of Sweetie Gifts.
Right. And Annie has like 20 years in the flower industry. This isn't just theory for her.
She's been on the ground, hasn't she? Seeing trends at flower markets in the US and Europe.
Talking directly to customers globally, US, Europe, Australia, Japan, Korea, you name it. Plus, she knows the Chinese supply chain inside out from visiting factories regularly. This is real-world knowledge.
So our mission today really is to give you a clearer path, a sort of guide for finding those reliable, consistent, transparent suppliers, the ones you can scale with.
Kind of a shortcut to understanding this specific corner of the flower world.
Okay, so let's say you're ready. You want to find these suppliers. Where do you even start looking?
Well, the obvious places probably pop up first, like Alibaba or Made in China.
Right, the big platforms.
Yeah, and they have tons of listings, which seems great, but it's also a bit of a minefield. Annie really emphasizes caution here
Why is that?
because pretty much anyone can list themselves as a supplier. And a big issue, especially with preserved roses, is fake photos. You know, they'll show these perfect fresh roses, maybe digitally tweaked to look preserved.
So what looks amazing online might not be what you get.
Exactly. So they're a starting point, sure, but you need to be really careful. Beyond that, Google search can work, but you need specific keywords.
Like what? Not just wholesale roses.
No, much more specific. Try something like preserved rose supplier factory direct. That helps cut through some of the resellers.
Okay, factory direct. That makes sense, getting closer to the source. What about, like, offline methods?
Yeah.
Meeting people.
Oh, absolutely crucial. Industry trade shows are still super valuable for this.
Which ones should people look out for?
Think about the big ones. Canton Fair, definitely. NY, NOW in the States. Ambiente over in Frankfurt.
Right, so you can actually see the product, touch it.
Exactly. Judge the quality yourself. Meet the people face to face. And, don't forget referrals. If you know people in the flower or gift industry, ask them. Their tips can be gold.
Okay, so you've got a few potential names. What are the absolute must-dos for checking them out properly, making sure they're legit?
Due diligence is key. Annie highlights a few things. First, ask them straight out. Are you a factory or a trading company?
What's the difference, really, in practice?
Well, a factory usually means more control over production, over quality. A trading company is a middleman, which can add cost and maybe less direct oversight.
Got it. What else?
Certifications. This is huge. You need to see things like REACH, CE, and crucially, phytosanitary certificates.
Phyto what now?
Phytosanitary. It basically confirms they're free from pests and diseases, essential for import-export. These are non-negotiable, really. Any good supplier will have them ready.
Okay, essential paperwork. And if you can't just fly out there immediately, how do you get a feel for their actual setup?
A video call. It's surprisingly effective. Annie suggests just a quick, maybe 15-minute video walkthrough of their place.
Ah, like a virtual tour.
Exactly. You see their facility, ask questions on the spot. It gives you a much better sense than just looking at polished photos.
Smart. And what about warning signs? Things that should make you pause.
Definitely be wary if they're vague. Like if you ask about MOQs, minimum order quantities, or timelines, or what materials they use, and you get wishy-washy answers, that's a red flag.
Okay, what else?
Those photos, again, if they look too perfect or generic, do a reverse image search. See if they're stealing pictures.
Good tip.
And finally, if they get defensive or push back when you ask about maybe doing an audit later or visiting the factory eventually, that's not a good sign. Transparency is key.
This is all super practical advice. Now, I know Sweetie Gifts, Annie's company, they've actually put together some resources to help people with this, right?
Yeah, they have. Because they know it's a challenge, they've created this vetted list of 10 excellent players in the global preserved flower industry. It's on their blog.
Oh, that's handy.
And if you want something even more detailed, like a bigger list of manufacturers with sample comparisons, you can actually email them directly. It's a good way to find some trusted names faster.
Great resource.
Hmm.
Okay, so we know where to look, how to vet. Let's talk money. Wholesale prices, MOQs. What are we generally looking at?
Right, brass tacks. On platforms like Alibaba, you'll often see prices per stem, maybe starting around, say, $1.99, going up towards $9.99, something like that.
But that can vary.
Oh, yeah. Premium roses, like Sweetie Gifts, has a line called Pear RALAA. They might have bigger flower heads or cool metallic colors. Those can be a bit higher. And quantity is a big factor.
How does the quantity usually affect the price? Tell us about those tiers.
Typically, if you're ordering maybe 50 to 100 stems, that's kind of entry-level wholesale. You'll probably pay the highest price per stem there.
Makes sense.
Then you move up to, say, 100 to 500 stems. That usually gets you standard wholesale pricing.
Okay.
And then for bigger orders, 500 stems plus, you can usually negotiate better discounts. You get access to their whole color range, more customization options too.
And what if you just want to test the waters first, get some samples without ordering hundreds?
Good suppliers get that. They'll usually offer low MOQs just for samples, maybe 12 or 24 heads.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, and asking for custom samples before you commit to a big order is also a good sign. Payment-wise, you'll see TT, that's wire transfer, for bigger orders. PayPal is often fine for samples. And for really large orders, LCs, letters of credit, are pretty standard.
Okay, good to know the options. Now, let's really get into the quality side. What actually goes into making a preserved rose that lasts? What's the real process?
Yeah, this is important because you hear different things. The high-quality process, like Annie describes, is quite detailed. It's actually 6 steps.
6 steps, okay.
It starts with selecting really top-quality, grade-A fresh roses right at their best. Then, step 1 is dehydrating them in 75% medical alcohol.
Medical grade.
Yep. Then a second dehydration, this time in nearly pure 99.99% ethanol. That gets all the moisture out.
Okay, very dry then.
Exactly. Then they use a special setting liquid to help the rose keep its shape. After that comes the coloring, using food-grade pigments for all those different shades.
Food grade, interesting.
And finally, they need to air dry naturally, which can take like 1 to 2 months.
Wow, 1 to 2 months just drying.
Yeah, it's a proper process, not just dipping them in something quickly. This is what gives them that longevity and beauty.
So if it's done right, how long can you realistically expect them to last?
Under the right conditions, basically cool, dry, no direct sun, no humidity, don't water them. You're looking at 1 to 3 years, typically.
1 to 3 years, that's amazing. What about fading? Is that a common issue?
It's a common question, definitely. But with good quality control during that process we talked about, fading really shouldn't happen. Annie mentioned they test for color fastness during production.
Good to hear. So besides lifespan, what else signals good quality?
You want consistent color, obviously, and a good supplier will have a decent range of colors. Sweetie Gifts, for instance, has over 60 shades.
60, okay.
And again, those certifications we mentioned, REACH, CE, phytosanitary, they're key quality indicators too. Plus, if you're importing to the U.S., they should be able to provide custom lab test reports if needed.
Right, for compliance. Now, say you actually have the roses in front of you. How do you judge the grade? What do you look for?
Look closely at the petals. Are they symmetrical? Any little breaks or tears, especially at the tips? Check the color. Is the dye even all over or patchy? And does the bloom itself look nice and full? Thick, not kind of thin or sparse. Those visual cues tell you a lot.
Great tips. Okay, so we've sourced these beautiful, long-lasting roses. Next step, getting them shipped. What are the options there?
Shipping, right. Usually you've got 2 main ways.
No.
Air freight or sea freight.
Pros and cons.
Air freight is fast, much faster, but it's more expensive. Good for urgent orders, maybe smaller ones. Sea freight is way more cost-effective, especially for bulk, but it takes longer.
Makes sense. And you mentioned terms earlier, like FOB.
Yeah, FOB and CIF. You need to understand those. FOB means free on board, basically. The supplier gets it onto the ship at their end, and then it's your responsibility.
Right.
CIF is cost, insurance, and freight. That means the price includes the goods, the shipping costs, and the insurance all the way to your port. A good supplier can offer both.
Right. Understanding those terms is important for your total cost. And for our listeners in the U.S., anything specific they need for importing? Paperwork.
Yep, there's a standard set of documents. You'll need a commercial invoice, a packing list showing what's in the boxes, a certificate of origin where the roses came from, and that phytosanitary certificate again.
That sounds crucial.
It really is. Annie mentioned Sweetie Gifts helps their U.S. clients with all the stuff regularly. They ship to big retailers like Walgreens, but also lots of smaller boutique shops in places like California, Texas, New York. So they know the drill.
Experience counts there. Now, beyond just the standard roses, what about making them unique? Customization
Oh,
options.
yeah, lots of possibilities for businesses here. This is where B2B partnerships can get creative.
Like what?
You could do logo branded packaging for sure, get exclusive colors made just for your brand, design special boxes for holidays, or
Nice.
even create gift sets, Combine the preserved roses with maybe jewelry or plush toys. Sweetie Gifts actually has different factories, one in Yiwu for things like rose bears and soap flowers, and the main one in Kunming for the preserved roses.
Ah, so they can coordinate different products.
Exactly. They can help match designs across different items for a really cohesive brand look.
Very cool. Okay, we've covered a lot on finding suppliers and the products, but how do you build confidence? How do you know they have a good track record?
Yeah, trust is huge. Annie suggests looking for real proof, like testimonials from their clients. Are there quotes from businesses in Europe, the US, Japan on their website?
Social proof, basically.
Exactly. And look for photos or galleries of their actual work, finish arrangements, installations. See the quality for yourself. Also, check if they regularly show up at those big trade shows we mentioned.
And any industry recognition.
That helps too. Mentions in market reports, awards, things like that show they're established players.
And Sweetie Gifts has some of that recognition, I gather.
They do, actually. They've been named a top 10 eternal flower brand in China, which is significant. And importantly, they're one of just a few Chinese companies called a global excellent practitioner in this specific industry.
That definitely adds credibility.
For sure. It gives you that extra bit of confidence.
This has been incredibly helpful, really digging into the details of sourcing preserved roses. If you had to boil it down, what's the main takeaway for our listeners?
I think the key thing is finding the right wholesale supplier isn't just about the cheapest price. Not at all.
It's more holistic than that.
Yeah, it's about trust, consistent quality, reliable service, and even thinking about things like sustainability in their process. It's the whole package.
Absolutely. So whether you're buying for a big chain, launching a gift brand, or you're a florist looking for supply, make sure your potential partner can really answer these questions we've discussed today, openly and confidently.
Definitely. And look, if you want more personalized help or maybe get a sample kit to see the quality firsthand, Annie and her team at Sweetie Gifts are happy to chat. You can just email them.
What's the email address?
It's sales@sweetie-group.com.
Perfect. sales@sweetie-group.com.
Perfect. Sales@sweetie-group.com.
And maybe we can leave listeners with this final thought from Annie Zhang, which I think sums it up perfectly.
What's that?
When your flowers last longer, so does your reputation.
That's good. Makes you think, doesn't it? About the long-term impact of who you choose to work with.
Exactly. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.